This is Eyewitness News Up Close with Diana Williams.
From scoring federal funds for Sandy recovery to dealing with a looming fiscal crisis, we talked to Hakeem Jeffries and Meng, two newly elected members of Congress, about changes they hope to make in Washington. Plus,
I think that if someone had gotten involved, maybe that man would still be here.
Celebrated subway hero Wesley Autry weighs in on the death of a man struck by a subway train after being pushed. Why didn't anyone help? And what would you do? Good morning and welcome to Up Close. I'm Diana Williams. It has been 1 month since Election Day. While a lame duck Congress tackles the fiscal cliff, new members are getting ready to get sworn in. And among them, two of New York's newest representatives, Meng, who will represent the 6th Congressional District in Queens, and Hakeem Jeffries, who is going to represent the 8th Congressional District in Brooklyn. And we're delighted to have you both here with us this morning. Congratulations to you both. You both were on the show before during primary season and during election season. So good to have you back on. And you excited about going to Washington?
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's great to be back. We're excited.
Yeah. Are you ready?
We're always ready.
It's a big process of hiring people and getting things together. So this is a group that's coming in that's going to have a lot on its plate. And for New York in particular, because of Hurricane Sandy. And I'm sure that's probably at the top of the agenda for both of you. And I know especially for you, because in your district there was a great deal of damage. As you go to Washington, is that one of the top priorities for you, is securing funds to deal with Sandy recovery?
Absolutely. The communities of the 8th Congressional District were hit extremely hard by Superstorm Sandy. Coney Island, Seagate, Brighton Beach, Manhattan Beach, Canarsie, and Howard Beach were amongst the most devastated neighborhoods. And I think the Sandy recovery effort has got to be threefold. First, we have to continue to make sure that we deal with the humanitarian crisis on the ground, that everyone who needs food, water, medicine, and shelter gets access to those basic humanitarian needs. The city, the state, the federal government are doing a pretty good job of making sure that that happens. Then we have to try and put people back on their feet and rebuild in the immediate term. But third, we're going to have to make sure that we rethink the coastal communities and the protections that are in place to ensure that when this type of significant storm or natural disaster occurs again.
Is that something you see happening at the federal level, or is that something you see happening more at the state and local level, though?
Well, it's going to involve all three levels of government, but the Army Corps of Engineers is going to have to be involved in doing a comprehensive study and assessment of our coastal communities to determine what is the best possible way to protect New York City.
Would that maybe
forward.
Perhaps include some not rebuilding in some areas that people are, inhabit right now?
Well, I think...
Because those are tough decisions to make.
Those are tough decisions to make. The reality of New York City is that we have 8 million people moving toward 9. This is an incredibly popular city. That's a good thing. It may be difficult to put in place a moratorium on building in a coastal community. However, if we rebuild, we have to rebuild in a responsible fashion.
Governor Cuomo is asking for $42 billion from the federal government. The White House, though, right now is saying $50 billion for all of the coastal areas. That incorporates New Jersey, New York, Connecticut. There's a difference there. Obviously, those numbers not adding up, because I know Governor Christie wants a great deal of money as well. Is that $50 billion going to be enough, or are you both going to be fighting for more?
I don't think that $50 billion is going to be enough. The new Congress members-elect, including Hakeem, myself, Dan Maffei, and Sean Patrick Maloney, recently wrote a letter to President Obama asking him to fully reimburse whatever needs New York State has. The region of New York and New Jersey, these states contribute a lot to the economy of the United States, and it's only fair that our economies in our region is taken care of.
And Senator Schumer said he wants it in one lump sum. Is that appropriate, that it should all come in one lump sum?
I think one lump sum is completely appropriate, and Grace makes a very important point. New York State sends more money down to Washington than we get back in return. Of the 5 states that send more to Washington than those states get back in return, New Jersey is also on that list. And so we regularly contribute to making this country and our economy strong, and at a time like this, it's important for the country to step up, help New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Difficult,
though, given the budget issues that Washington is dealing with right now. Do you expect that this is not going to be an easy fight? Particularly, too, because you're both Democrats in a House that's controlled by Republicans.
I mean, it wasn't an easy fight to begin with, but I think that the deal and this year's elections that we just came off of show that the American people want us to get along and get the job done. The hurricane, the superstorm, that definitely wasn't expected. But like Hakeem said, you know, America needs to take care of its most vulnerable, and right now, many of its most vulnerable are the ones who've been suffering.
And these are issues that were litigated clearly during the presidential campaign. Mitt Romney proposed a $5 trillion tax cut for the wealthy and the well-off, largely to be paid for by the middle class. President Obama articulated a different position: tax fairness, a balanced approach, raise the rates, and a return to the Bush-era tax rates for those who make more than $250,000. Americans voted significantly
you feel like
for
the people
President
have
Obama.
spoken, and that's okay. So let's talk now about this lame duck Congress right now that is dealing with a very important matter, the so-called fiscal cliff. When the Bush tax cuts expire and these automatic spending cuts go into effect, you're not involved in this because you don't get sworn in until next year. Is there a part of you, though, that wishes you could be in there right now, involved with it, or are you kind of relieved you don't have to deal with it? Although you may have to, but are you relieved right now, or would you want to be involved in this issue?
Well, it's a very important issue. We're in close contact with our colleagues in the Congress regularly just to articulate our position. The New York delegation has been incredibly welcoming. We've had consistent dialogue with them. They've been extremely helpful, both on the substance and on the process of getting ourselves up and running as new members of Congress. I think we both have made our positions clear that we want to make sure that in this budget deal, we don't devastate those communities and those individuals like the poor and working families and the middle class and seniors who are most vulnerable, and that the American people have said there should be a balanced approach, and we're hopeful, as what appears to be the case, that President Obama will continue to hold firmly to those principles.
What about you, Grace?
Well, we've already seen the facts. We've seen reports and statistics from elected officials such as Comptroller DiNapoli, Congress members Jerry Nadler and Carolyn Maloney, who specifically detail what groups and how New Yorkers will be impacted by potential cuts. So it's very important. You know, we're talking about seniors losing programs such as Meals on Wheels. And we're talking even aside from Hurricane Sandy aftermath, we're talking about cuts to potential previous investments in our infrastructure and mass transit that we already needed in the first place. So these are, it could be devastating.
You all both went in for orientation, where you got to meet the other newest members of this 113th Congress. And I think there's a picture of all of you standing together on the steps of the Capitol building. That must have been quite a special moment, by the way, particularly for you, because more women, I think, in this new Congress than ever before. But as you got together with this group, was there a tone or a sense of unity in what you, both between Republicans and Democrats? Because, you know, most people would say Congress is dysfunctional, you can't get along, you know, that it's gridlock. Was there a different sense as you all got together this time around, or did you sense that there's two sides still?
Well, one of the bright sides is that there are more women in Congress. We went from 17% and we had a slight increase to 19%, which is still not a lot, but it's an increase. And I think that based on, you know, a lot of our conversations from with our freshman Republican and Democratic members-elect, we've seen that, you know, the voters have spoken. They want us to work with the other side. They want us to get things done. They want us to get the job done. And I have a general sense that the freshman class really does want to get along. And the Democratic freshman class is 25% of the Democratic caucus now.
Right. Did you get that sense too? Is there a different feeling maybe?
Absolutely. And we both represent extremely diverse districts here in New York. And New York is an incredibly diverse city. That's the majesty of this great city of ours. What's wonderful about the new Democratic caucus overall and our freshman class is that this will represent the most diverse conference in the history of the Republic. An overwhelming or a majority of the conference are women, people of color, and members of the LGBT community. We reflect America in a way that's been different in the past, and hopefully that reflection will enable us to be more effective.
So as you go into this Congress, with the idea that you want to work together, I'm curious, what does compromise mean to you? What does it mean to you?
Well, to me, it means a balanced approach. And the reality of divided government is that saying my way or the highway, which is what the Tea Party Republicans came into Congress with a mantra to execute their agenda and not to negotiate, not to arrive at a balanced approach. And we saw the dysfunction that resulted from that. Hopefully, they've learned their lessons. Some of the most strident Tea Party members, like Alan West.
They, the other guys. Are you going to be willing to negotiate with them?
I'm absolutely willing to negotiate. Anyone that wants to be reasonable, objective. It's important to bring your ideology to the table. We all have different beliefs that reflect, hopefully, the beliefs of our constituents. But at the end of the day, we have to arrive at a work product that makes sense for the American people. We're certainly willing to do it. I'm hopeful that our friends on the other side of the aisle will be as well.
I think that a lot of Republican Congress members, current members, would refer to these Tea Party members as they also. The number of Americans, conservative Americans, who identify themselves as Tea Partiers have decreased within this last year. And that's something that is very telling of how the American people feel, and that's something very telling of how the new members and this new
So you feel they don't
Congress
have the strong voice that they've had in the past?
Correct.
But are you willing to work with all members?
Definitely, definitely. I mean, there was a lot of focus just during our 2 weeks of orientation from our leadership that was saying, get to know members from the other side, you know, meet their families,
Did you?
Talk to them. We did, and we had a lot of opportunity to do so.
Okay, that's hopeful. I think everybody wants to see Congress, both sides working together. So
the approval ratings affect both sides.
Yes.
And in the New York State Legislature, we consistently had to work with the Republican Senate and pass laws on a bipartisan basis. So we're practicing that. And we're going to take that down to Washington, D.C.
Okay. Good luck. We wish you both the best.
Thank you.
So how much more will taxpayers in New York have to pay if we go over that fiscal cliff? State Controller Tom DiNapoli joins us next to explain. We'll be right back after this.